Okay, so when Sam asked me to speak in chapel, he told me that I could choose my own topic. And that really stressed me out at first because I had so many things going through my head, like what if I choose something dumb? Or what if everyone is bored by my topic? Or what if I'm not even really qualified enough to even speak to all of you? But when I thought about it after a while, I realized that there was this book that I had been reading at the time that he asked me, and it's been something that's so influential and valuable and relevant in my life, especially at this point in my life, and I felt like that was what I needed to share today. So I'm obviously not going to share the entire book. I don't have enough time for that, and you guys would get bored. But if you kind of like what I'm talking about today, I would very much recommend you to read this book. It's really, really valuable, like I said, and I hope that it can be those things to you too. The book is called How to Be Here by Rob Bell, and some of the ideas and themes that I'm going to be kind of talking about today go along with the question of what kind of life are you creating? So Rob Bell begins his book by talking about the process of writing his very first book, Velvet Elvis. And so he talks about sitting down at his desk and opening up his laptop and opening up a blank page in Microsoft Word and just sitting down and getting ready to write, and nothing comes out. And he says that he just kind of looks and sees the cursor, or as he calls it, the blinking line. And he just has nothing coming out. He's just staring at that blinking line. And then it hits him that we all have a blinking line, because it's whatever sits in front of you that is waiting to be brought into being. So it's the book, or it's the day, or job, or business, or family, or class, or project, or challenge, or phone call, or life that is waiting for you to bring it into being. So do you see your life as something that you create, or do you see your life as something that's just happening to you? I think for a lot of people, the world is already created. It is a fixed, static reality, set in place, previously established, done, or another word for it is finished. Which usually, that point of view leads to the question, what's the point of any of this? It's all done. There's nothing new to create. I just have to get through this life. But when we're facing the blinking line and talking about bringing something new into existence, we're expressing a new and different view of the world, one in which the world is unfinished, which brings about the questions, what will we make of our lives? What will we do with our energy? What kind of world will we create? And what will you do with your blinking line? You have the opportunity to create your life. God has given each of us our own blinking line. And what you do with your life is fundamentally creative work. The kind of life you lead, what you do with your time, how you spend your energy, it's all part of how you create your life. And it contributes to the ongoing creation of the world. But then, what about suffering? What about all of the things that come our way that make us feel powerless and out of control, like our life has been created for us? What about the tragedy and loss and heartbreak and illness and abuse? The list can go on. But how we respond to what happens to us, especially the painful, excruciating things that we didn't want and have no control over, is a creative act. How you respond to what happens to you is a creative act. If you think about it, who starts cancer foundations? Usually people who have lost a loved one to cancer or who have fought cancer themselves. And who organizes recovery groups? Usually people who have struggled with addiction or know someone that they love who struggles with addiction. And who stands up for the right of the oppressed? Often people who have experienced oppression themselves. Because we have power, more power than we realize, to decide that we are going to make something good out of even this. What new and good things are going to come out of even this suffering? It's easier said than done. But when you ask that question, you've already taken something that was out of your control and reframed it as another opportunity to take part in the ongoing creation of your life and ultimately a better world. Rob Bell brings up a point a little later in his book about how there are a multitude of things that can prevent us from pursuing our blinking line. And one of them is when you get stuck in your own head. And I struggle with this one every day, even preparing for this chapel talk, because I got stuck on those what ifs. You know, the what if they hate my topic? What if I'm not qualified? Or who am I to do this? The blinking line can be brutal because not only does it taunt you with all the possibilities and all the potential that's in front of you, but it also can cause us to ask the question of ourselves, who am I to do this? And that question is paralyzing. It can prevent us from overcoming. It can cause crippling doubt and stress. It can keep us stuck on the couch while life passes us by, and it can keep us from wanting to give that chapel talk that's on our heart. You have to get out of your head in order to answer the question, who am I to do this? It's the voices in your head that speak doubt and insecurity and fear and anxiety, like a tape that's jammed on repeat. These destructive messages will drain an extraordinary amount of your energy if you aren't clear and focused and grounded. Now, I'm sure that you all have a list of the things that you aren't, the things you can't do, the things you've tried that didn't go well, regrets, mistakes, moments where you've crawled home and hid under your covers in humiliation. For many of us, the list is a source of a number of head games, usually involving the words not blank enough, not smart enough, not talented enough, not disciplined enough, not educated enough, not beautiful, thin, popular, or hardworking enough. You can fill in your own blank. But I'm here to tell you that who you aren't isn't interesting. What you haven't done, where you didn't go to school, what you haven't accomplished, who you don't know, and what you are scared of simply aren't interesting. Because if you focus on who you aren't and what you don't have, or where you haven't been, or skills or talents you don't possess, you'll lose precious energy that you could use to do something good with that blinking line of yours. And just like who you aren't isn't interesting, who they are isn't interesting when it comes to getting out of your own head and creating your path. Because we all have a they. They are the friends, neighbors, coworkers, family members, superstars who appear to skate by effortlessly while we're like slogging it out. They are the people that we fixate on, constantly holding their lives up to ours and using their apparent ease and success as an excuse to hold back from doing our work and pursuing our path in the world. There's a great example of this, of being focused on someone else's path that Rob Bell talks about in his book. And it's the story from the Bible when Jesus and Peter are reunited after Jesus' resurrection. So we know about how earlier in the story, Peter denies knowing Jesus 3 times, just like Jesus had predicted. And I'm sure that after Christ died, Peter was filled with guilt and remorse for denying the Son of God who he claimed to love and follow. But when Jesus appeared to his disciples after he rose from the dead, Jesus had forgiven Peter and his sins were washed away. So Jesus didn't rebuke him, but gave him another chance to follow him. He reminded him of his blinking line. And Jesus basically explains to Peter that it's not going to be easy. The path as a follower of God is going to be full of extreme difficulties, especially in Peter's case. But he still says to Peter, "Follow me." And Peter reacts to this by pointing to one of Jesus' other disciples and saying, "Well, what about him?" Because in Peter's head, he's probably thinking, why do these extreme difficulties that Jesus just described have to happen to me? Why not someone else? Why not John? All Peter can think about is someone else's path and not his own. He's with Jesus having a conversation about his own life and his difficult path that will ultimately end up glorifying God. And yet his mind is over there wondering about why it has to be him and not John. Peter asks, "What about him?" And Jesus responds, "What is that to you? You must follow me." We all have those terrible things that we don't want and have no control over. But again, we can sit there and wonder, why me and not them? Why is everyone else's life better or easier than mine? Or we can try to make something good out of what happens to us. I want to challenge all of you, along with myself, to decide now that you're not going to spend your precious energy speculating about someone else's life and how it compares to yours. We each have our own life, our own blinking line, and every path has its own highs and lows and ups and downs, joys, challenges, and difficulties. But when you compare yourself with others, you have no idea what struggles they're going through. You have your life, and your life is not his life or her life, and his life is not yours, and neither is hers. There will always be someone who's smarter than you, who has more raw talent than you, someone who's more experienced and better qualified and harder working and stronger, more articulate, more creative, with more stamina, who can sing better than you can. But who you aren't isn't interesting. And who they are isn't interesting when it comes to who you are and what your path is. So begin whatever you're doing by remembering that you are here and you have been given a gift from our Creator, a gift of life and opportunity. The blinking line reminds you that whatever has happened to you, whatever has come your way that you didn't want, and whatever you have been through, you have today, you have this moment, and you have a life that you get to create. The universe is unfinished, and God is looking for partners in an ongoing creation of a better world. So what kind of life will you create with your blinking line?